listening to the Punisher Waterfowls, the Union 0430 podcast. Brought to you by Real Geese Decoys, the most technological advanced silhouette decoys on the market. And Vortex Canada, the force of optics.
Hey everybody, welcome back. Episode 79 of the Union 0430. We've alluded to it a couple weeks now, but we finally got Kevin from First Lite to come on, and we are going to do our best tonight, ladies and gentlemen, to get out of Kevin everything that there is to get out regarding this new waterfowl lineup from First Lite. He's been bragging about how he's not going to give us any details, but I think we're going to be able to get it out of him. So
I want to point out, last week they called us the Super Sleuths. So just saying.
Yeah, that's right. You guys are pretty good at digging through. I appreciate that.
Yeah. So we'll introduce Kevin, then I'll introduce the boys, and we'll get into the show. So, Director of Community. So that's your title now. You've been doing some pretty cool jobs over. I checked out your LinkedIn profile and everything, Kevin. So I was creeping you for a little bit there, buddy.
I hope I cleaned it up all right.
No, it was good, buddy. So guided elk hunts, forest fire suppression specialists, digital media. What's that thing? A media strategist.
Yeah.
Now,
that's fancy,
Hey, is that ever? Ladies and gentlemen, like I said, Kevin from First Lite, he was hunting today in Oregon, and he's literally just getting home and jumping on the show with us right now. So, Kevin, thanks for coming on, buddy. We'll get into it with you here just a second. We'll introduce the boys. Philly is up in Port Perry, as usual. Mark is just outside the nation's capital in Ashton, Ontario. Dave is up in Kincardine. Thinking of you, we are. Jeff Coates, and I am just outside Kingston, Ontario. Kevin, welcome to the show, man. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I appreciate being here. I've loved your guys' program, and I think you guys have a lot of fun, man. That's what it's all about. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, and yeah, we do have a lot of, and you know what? I think that's probably our thing. And when we reach out to someone, and when Dave reaches out to people, Phil and Merck, and we reach out to guests to come on, it seems like it's the common theme that everyone says, "Hey, you guys are just having fun. You're just a bunch of regular dudes," and so it's good, man. So I love it, and thanks for coming on.
Yeah, you bet. Pleasure to be here, guys.
So this morning, 7-man limit.
Yeah.
And how long?
Well, that was yesterday. Today
that
was
yesterday.
A bit of a struggle fest. But yesterday we've been chasing. So I've been in Eastern Oregon quite a bit. Used to live over there, worked there in the woods, and then moved to Idaho, and I took this job. But anyway, there's a rich history of waterfowl in there. We have good relationships with landowners. We always get like a really late flight. For some reason, the county we're hunting in always gets windswept, so those grain fields and sort of the feed fields stay a little bit more open. Mm-hmm. And we just had a blast, man, shooting big Canadas, and it just doesn't get any better, man.
And those windswept fields, what are you using to hide? Like, how are you guys hiding? And the only reason why I asked is because I hunted one late season here, and we found it difficult to hide.
Yeah, it's super hard. The nice part about there is there's not a lot of hunting pressure at all. So we get like cream of the crop spots to hunt. We're looking at like fields that haven't been touched for 2 weeks. There's a lot of beet fields there, triticale, hay fields, some beans, little bit of barley here and there if you can find it. In fact, I once paid a guy to plant barley so we could hunt it in the fall. But it's one of those things where you just have kind of a pick of the litter, so to speak, and on places to hunt, and you just got to find the birds. And it's a hard place to scout because it's so big. Yeah. And some of those birds are traveling 30 miles a day just to go from roost to food. And but we found a pretty good spot for Canadas. we struggled on the ducks. Of course, as I drove out tonight, there's like 3,000 mallards in the field we hunted this morning, which, you know, just the wind picked up midday.
Yeah.
Should have waited it out, but we were out of time, out of cameras, and we had to go home. So that's the way she goes.
Yeah. Are you guys finding the birds are a bit delayed compared to normal years there?
You know, that part of the world, it seems like there's so much water, rivers, ponds, lakes. It's really rich with water that it doesn't really start until it freezes up, like the good field hunts. You know, you can shoot onesies, twosies, and scratch out some limits early on local birds, but those birds really don't get to where we were hunting for a little bit of time, because I think what's happened, rather than just the change in the time of the year, it's sort of shifted closer to the main, what we call like the edge of the Pacific Flyway, you know, where the Snake River comes down into Idaho and Wyoming. We've always had good bird numbers, but they seem to be heavy in that neck of the woods in the last like 5 years.
Awesome.
Yeah, and there's just a lot of like opportunity to hunt there, because there's not a lot of people doing it. It's not like the Midwest. It's not like Saskatchewan, or it's not like North Dakota, where guys, that's what they go there to do. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you'll find more guys driving around looking for mule deer sheds than trying to shoot geese and ducks. So good opportunity, but I don't think the birds are late, man. I think this is just what they do, you know, relative to the rest of the country.
Yeah.
Good. A lot of birds stay there too. You know, they'll winter there as long as the river's open or some of the still water remains open. And this year's been weird because it did freeze hard early. So a lot of birds pushed out. So we're waiting for that water to open back up, and boy, they showed up in a big way.
So by chance, the last week or so, were you testing out any new gear?
Oh yeah, we were testing. Well, we were shooting gear that we tested for the last 2.5 years, and then sprinkling in a few products that will come out in the following years. Yeah, so more to come on that. But overall, man, it's the biggest thing I can talk about. Really, is just that. Our ability now to stay warm in places where it's cold is like going to be unmatched. It's just unreal. So
that's awesome. And I don't want to cut you off, Kev, but you are a goose hunter, you are a duck hunter, right? So you know what's needed. Are you? And I know you work for First Lite and stuff, but you genuinely you sound like you're excited about this new lineup that's coming.
Yeah, the first thing I ever shot was a greenhead mallard, and when I was a kid, and I've been hooked on it ever since. You know, goose call competition for a while, and kind of grew up around that in the Midwest. And I actually did quite a few projects with Sitka gear early on with Ben Potter from Con Outdoors from the California coast. So we worked together on some stuff there, and yeah, Sitka makes great gear, man, really great gear. But the industry's been hurting for some competition, some different ways of thinking about gear, and our ability to start from, you know, the skin and go out is just unmatched, man. From merino wool base layers, it's just like warm when wet. You know, there's situations where, you know, you might not want to be wet, but you're going to be, because you're throwing deeks or you're getting splashed, or even in, you know, situations where we're having midday, you know, unthaw basically, or thaw, where we were hauling stuff out of the field because it was so dang muddy by midday. So I think we're thinking about gear a little differently, but I'm genuinely excited about what's coming out. I mean, I would tell you if I wasn't too. And across our whole lineup, we've grown in a way that we've got some tried and true guys testing our gear years in advance, which makes the process a lot smoother.
Yeah.
And do you guys ever sit back and like look at the forums and the groups that are seeing pictures come out? Like recently there was the hand muffs, the hand warmers.
Oh yeah.
It like, we're talking a month or two before they were actually released. Yeah. People saw them online, and the forums were all like, "Oh, they just took like a Sitka one and they put the neck gaiter over top of it," and like there was all that talk. And like, you guys must just sit there and be like, haha, you know, we got this coming.
Yeah,
right?
Man, I try not to listen to the armchair quarterbacks too much, although there are some nuggets in there once in a while. Like, hey, that's a pretty good idea, and then you call the guy and be like, what are you thinking about there? But a lot of the time, you know, it's just guys like to BS a little bit on the internet. So we try to like take it with a grain of salt. But it is funny, man. You can like, there's just no, nothing's secretive anymore. You know, as soon as it hits the internet, it's over, man. So we've been pretty good about keeping it under wraps for a long time. Oh, that's my garage door. Can you hear that?
No, you're good.
No, it's good.
No, you guys are real good at hiding it. Because hey, Dave and Mark and Phil, like when we had Paul Peterson on, like what seems like a year ago, even back then, he was like, "Yeah, we're talking about it," and that was it. Like that was where we left it. Like never bit, never got into it any more than that. Right? So,
we're as a crew and a company, we really believe in what we're doing, and part of that process, everybody at our company really believes in the process. And I think the biggest thing is we want to make sure that when people get their hands on the gear, they're hearing about it from us, and they're understanding that we're a passionate group, of whether it's elk hunters, whitetail hunters, or waterfowl hunters. Like we're serious about it. We spent 110 days on the road in 2021, and we're putting the thing through the paces. So we try to keep it as much under the wraps as you can. But Instagram's a powerful tool, but it's also can be a worst enemy, man.
All right, so let's talk about this new pattern.
Yeah.
So I know we're not going to. You can sort of kind of see it if you go on the First Lite website. There's a couple pictures there. You really can't dive right into it and see the pattern perfect, but you can get an idea of right. where they're leaning. So tell us. So first off, Dave had the question earlier about naming the pattern. Sure. And then, so naming the pattern, we've got the name for it. Talk to us about how you came up with that new pattern.
Yeah, so that's a good question. Just generally speaking, when we think about naming products and patterns and things, it's a group of people in a room that have a lot of experience about the pursuit, right? So there's, for instance, like Spectre in the whitetail space. That generation, was thought up through a lot of different insights about what are we trying to accomplish, right? And it always came back to we're trying to disappear in the tree. And Spectre, obviously being a sort of a analogous to a ghost, it works, right? And it falls in line with some of our nomenclature and things like that. When it came down to the waterfowl pattern, most specifically is, what we're trying to do is say that, you can kill ducks in solid colors in a blind, right? We know that. But the instances where we find ourselves most often in marsh situations and in situations that are, we're duck hunting in, there's some commonalities there when it comes down to color, shape, crackleture, and things like that. So the idea behind Typha is essentially the ecological explanation of those places we hunt. That includes all the plant families essentially in every situation you would find yourself duck hunting in, from the Midwest flyaway to the Northeast to the West Coast, and then across Saskatchewan, east to BC, everything, or west to BC, and everything in between. I mean, this thing's going to fit wherever you're at. So the naming process, comes down to a large group of people really just throwing stuff at the wall at first, right? Like any good sort of brainstorm session, Now that's a picture from Ben, I think Ben Matthews probably.
Yeah.
So this was on the First Lite Instagram.
Oh yeah. Yeah, Ben's a hell of a photographer, but you can tell like that situation there, like those guys are coming into cattails, right? But you could see how that fits really well in cattails. But then if you go into, like, we hunted a pivot row yesterday, and it's brown, right? It's dark.
Yep.
A little bit of snow in there. We're working out of panel blinds. What's really crucial is when something comes over the top of you, you blend in, right? So they can't see it. And it just does a good job of that. Like I said, we've tested all over the country and been pretty pleased. And, the last thing I'll say about sort of the pattern, and we can keep going on it, but the ideation behind it is that we hunt in a lot of different environments, right? So we've gone through, a lot of iterations of this to get it right, to get it perfect. I think you'd be hard pressed to find an environment that it doesn't work in, right?
And I think that also, I think that a lot of our listeners, so, if you look at a pattern, if you look at a camo pattern and you say, yeah, listen, this will work. It'll work well here. And you're trying to create a pattern that, like you said, is going to work everywhere to the best of your ability, right? Because listen, gear is expensive, clothing is expensive. You can't have 4 different suits. Well, I can't have 4 different suits of camo. So you try and find that best pattern, that the most robust pattern that you can find that'll fit in the most opportunities, right? And the thing that you said that I like the most is when they're flying overhead. How many, and Mark, you and I have talked about this so many times, and so many people take this for granted. They'll do all of this work to cover up their front, but they never worry about their back, and they never worry about what the birds are seeing when they fly over. So I really like the fact that you guys are thinking thinking down those lines, and you're thinking like, and I know First Lite is a bunch of hunters, but it's good to see that people are thinking about the little tiny things that the average guy thinks about.
Yeah, no detail is too small at our shop, man. There's no such thing. And I think the biggest thing when we're talking about pattern is how it's placed on a garment. We think a lot about, from basically the top of your head to the middle of your body. Because most guys are hunting out of panels, they're hunting out of layouts, or some sort of blind situation. So we really thought a lot about collar construction, hood construction, shoulder construction, how it all works together. And I think you'll see as we start to trickle out some more information on this that it's really thoughtful. And I think if you define different categories of folks, like the Western hunters are sort of the athletes, whitetail hunters are the scientists, and the waterfowl hunters are the workhorse, man. They're not thinking about things in a way that an elk hunter does. They're working their ass off to get to the X,
Yeah.
And I think honestly, like, that's what we're making gear for. We're making gear for those guys, that understand that it takes a lot of work. This gear is going to hold up. It's going to look really good. It's going to conceal you and do the job for you. So,
yeah. Mm-hmm. Mark, I know you had some questions.
So we can expect this by the fall, eh?
Yeah, absolutely. You're gonna start to see a lot more information in the next 2 to 3 months coming your way, and I expect folks will be able to have this as part of their kit well before waterfowl season's open across the country and the continent.
And you guys have been going, it's not just the clothing. I noticed from that picture there's a lot of different things going on there.
Oh yeah, it's
not just from the inside out. It's also everything you're carrying and everything you're going to have with you in the blind or whatever. It's not going to be So you can see some items here.
Goose, are you guys bringing out goose decoys?
Yeah, I see that. Exactly. Man.
Oh, let's start that rumor.
Yeah, you should. Yeah.
First Lite's getting into the decoy business.
That's right. And I think, honestly, guys, from my perspective, you can't have just gear, right? There's a lot of things, not just clothing, right? There's a lot of things that go into a waterfowler's kit that needs to stay dry, needs to stay concealed. You're going to see a lot of different things that assist a waterfowler in his pursuit or her pursuit. And it's just going to it's going to be a place you can come and expect to expect to be satisfied, as far as their kit goes.
Now, is it fair to say that you're coming out with new gear? You're not just taking the uncompagre or however you say that word. You're not just taking that, putting a new pattern on it and being like, here's our waterfowl line, right? You're coming out with.
It's gear designed for the specific pursuit among all things, and you've seen that in whitetail and Western, and now you're going to see it in waterfowl as well. Yeah.
Now, in regards to I don't know, again, if you can speak to this or not, Kevin, in regards to the new line, but what do you guys run for, say, a fabric, quote unquote, comparable to, say, Gore-Tex?
Yeah, that's a great question.
Do you have your own proprietary fabric that you're going to be using for this waterfowl line? Or?
That all is going to be coming out, all that information. I will say that the easiest way to say this without getting fired probably is it'll be
something's coming.
All I'll say is we know waterfowl is windy. We know the best hunts occur when it's shitty, and there's going to be product to back that up for sure.
Yeah, the worse the weather, the better the hunts are, and that's when
That's
separates the boys from the men, right?
That's right, 100%.
Like Damien can speak on this, but the piece of gear that most of the guys that I've got onto Sitka or First Lite coming from Sitka, they're like, oh, what should I get first? Is the Seek, right? Yeah. That's the one. And Damien, that's what he's got onto. A couple other guys, they got onto the Seek, and they're like, yeah, this is great. And they're kind of coming out of the Sitka stuff and going into that's the first piece that I try to get people into for the waterfowl, right?
So absolutely. And you'll see some pieces coming out across all our lines that are just making that whole program better, man. There's going to be a lot of cool stuff coming. And, you know, typically in a normal year, we'd have all this information would be out because all the shows, but we actually didn't go to any shows this year because we've been sort of on, it's just a hard deal, right? Like you just don't know what's going to happen with COVID and the pandemic and such. So we've been we're waiting a little bit this year. So you're going to have to sit up in your seat for a little longer.
And that was a good point, Dave, like you brought up, because we've had, Dave, we've had a number of people reach out to us and say, hey, listen, we need a warm jacket for waterfowl hunting. And I always include Dave, because Dave is the one that brought me on the First Lite. But I always say, listen, I've got a Seek, and I've worn my Seek jacket and my waders in -22. So that's what, like -9 Fahrenheit.
Yeah.
So -22, but I layered, and that is and I've never ever done that until I got into First Lite and starting to learn about layering. Like the days of these great big heavy puffy jackets, those days are done.
Yeah, and absolutely. And you know, there's certain outerwear that needs to be burly.
That's right.
To limit some of that, but you're right, man. That's our whole goal, is to educate people how to wear clothing so you can strip it during the day, put on more if you need to. Yeah. And that's essentially what we're talking about with these kits, man, is like starting with merino wool as your base layer. You cannot go wrong in a waterfowl. Because you know how it is, man. If you're setting up seven dozen full bodies, it's sweaty, man. But it might be below zero. Yeah. So when you sit down, you're like, oh shit, I'm cold, right? But with a merino wool base layer and tacking on a few more things after that, you're gonna be cool when it's hot and warm when it's cold, you know?
Yeah.
And coming with the well, I was just gonna say, like, coming from the canoe, like I hunt mainly out of a canoe, right?
Yeah.
And coming from that, you're gonna have a time where you're gonna get a bit wet, and merino wool actually keeps its heat. I forget the name of it, but like 80% of your heat retention is kept with merino, whereas the other synthetics and stuff, like, that's gone as soon as it's wet, right? So
right. And that's a great advantage of merino, man, is that warm when wet factor. Whether you're on the mountain or you're in the marsh, it's just like there's just nothing that can beat it, right?
Yeah.
You want to know what I love about it?
Yeah.
Is the non-stink.
Yeah, absolutely.
I love the fact, because I love the fact that it don't stink. Like and don't think I'm a pig or anything like that, but like after every hunt, I'm not washing all my clothes after every hunt, right? There's stuff that just gets hung up to dry and it just, I guess, breathe when it comes off me, because the next morning I'm going right back out again. It doesn't stink. And that's
there's no reason you couldn't wear our merino base layers 5 to 7 days in a row and feel perfectly fresh, you know?
And Kevin, I'm 20 years in the Canadian Army, so I know what it's like to be in the woods and wearing the same clothes for a long time, and that stench when you can smell yourself and it's putrid.
It is.
So I appreciate it, and Mark knows as well. So I love it, and you know, I think the science behind it, and fellas and ladies, once they understand that, listen, for a waterfowler, and I'm not taking anything away from any other hunter, but your ability to be able to bring your gun up to your shoulder, get into a sight picture, and be able to pull off 1, 2, or 3 shots is unlike anything else in the hunting world, right? So your mobility and able to move instead of being like the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man. You know, it's a big deal. And to me, that's what I pay the extra money for.
Yeah, the nice part too, you know, with the layering systems is you can wear one shirt for 5-7 days. You're not having to spend twice the cost or 3 times the cost on getting a kit for every day you hunt. You know, we've got guys in Northwest Territories right now hunting wolves that essentially never took their merino off for like 10 days, you know, and that's just like, you're just not going to find that with anything else.
Yeah.
I think the biggest attestment to that too is just like the sheer, I guess, for lack of a better term, science, but that and research that's been put into, like, say, you know, modern day technology that we have now. So you can get away with the heck.
Oh, you're good, Philly.
The computer's being wonky.
No, you're good. You're
fine to us.
Yeah, you're fine to us, buddy.
Anyways, like I said, the modern day technology and such, you can get away with these thinner layers that produce far more heat and create less bulk, especially like I said with us as waterfowlers. Like, we're out to the last day and trying to get that gun, because like it's not like you have time to shoot. You're whipping that gun up, you're shouldering it, and then, you know, shooting, right?
Absolutely.
So, you know, new fabrics and stuff, you can get away with a lot less layers and still, you know, retain that high comfort level, so to speak, while you're hunting. Yeah,
agreed. And it's we spend a lot of time, you know, we like to say that our gear isn't developed in a lab, it's developed in the woods and the marsh, and but it's nice to have that scientific backing, right? Like that's really, we're utilizing the best stuff in the world, best factories in the world, best materials in the world, best people, I think, in the world to build this stuff, and that's the core of our whole business, right?
Kevin, just if you can you talk a little bit about
the waders?
The waders, that puffy jacket on the guy in the lead canoe. No, can you talk about, you know, your R&D team? And I know, like, you guys have sent this out to outfitters, to people that, so obviously people that work for First Lite, some outfitters, some guys that are spending 100+ days chasing the migration. Can you talk about your research and development team a little bit?
Yeah, you bet. So I started at First Lite in the spring of 2019, and one of my first meetings there was talking about testing waterfowl, right? So this has been interesting part about the R&D cycle, is that First Lite it's sort of under the radar, but like most of the guys in our office, their first pursuit or their most days in the field come from waterfowl hunting. You know, we're a born in the Rockies kind of company where, you know, we spend a lot of time in the mountains, but when our season ends in the mountains, all those guys are heading to fields and in the marsh to really pursue it. So we've got a vat, like if we added up all the experience, you know, it's 100+ years of experience in waterfowl hunting. So that's where we started. And from that point, you know, we brought in certain individuals that, you know, hunt clients 100 days a year, or hunt in the Sac Valley over rice and it's muddy and nasty and wet. These have been folks that have been a part of our process for a long time. And you really got to trust those folks, because this is obviously like a pretty under the radar operation till now. But yeah, it's just a lot of time. There's, you know, all our product developers and PLMs are never satisfied. You know, they get as close as they can, and then they start thinking about how they can make it better for the next time. So that to me is like, at a lot of other companies, I think they're chasing the dollar and trying to like put out a lot of different gear. We're trying to put out the best gear, and that comes from a contingent of folks that really are passionate about what they do. And they're going to be out there when it's 20 below. They're going to be out there when it's 95 degrees. We had guys hunting sandhill cranes in August. We got guys hunting the Columbia River next week, closing out the season. It's going to be like 12 degrees and ice everywhere. And it's the gamut of what you can put stuff through in waterfowling is unlike any other pursuit, in my opinion.
Kevin, is it fair for me to say, and please correct me if this is way out to lunch, is it fair for me to say that First Lite as a company, you know, sort of kind of made their name on, hunting in the mountains, the whitetail, the elk, all of that stuff, made their name, got popular, built up the bank account. And now, because you're not, that afforded you the luxury to take your time on the waterfowl pattern and the waterfowl line. Is that a fair statement to make?
Yeah, absolutely. We were born out of this idea that base layers can be comfortable and made out of merino wool. And then from there, it sort of stemmed in all these different categories that folks just really were interested in. And we see a chance to put our name on some things. And I really believe that the emphasis on waterfowl was we spent longer, on this process than probably we needed to. But you're talking about guys that are going to be wet, cold, hungry, miserable. We got to figure out a way to make that the best we can. And it's a little bit about timing too, because I think now there's an opening to come after some of the guys making waterfowl gear and saying, oh, we're going to do it better. The stuff we're going to make is going to be, objectively better. It's more thoughtful. And I think that position, is something that took us some time to get to. But we've been jonesing, man. Like from the time I started, we've been testing some prototypes, and it's just like we spend a lot of days going after it. And we talk a lot about zippers, and we talk closures, we talk about waterproofing to anything like that. It's an ongoing investigation for the future.
Now, is it fair to say that there are going to be other companies that are going to kind of use the camo pattern on some of the gear? For example,
to be determined at this point, but I think that'd be it's the natural progression, right? To partner with folks that know in terms of the industry, know how to build things that we're a clothing company for sure.
And another thing that you don't touch on enough is that you guys give back a lot to the outdoors industry, like that Waterworks lamps and reel. I forget how much of the profit or the proceeds from that went towards charity, right? Like,
yeah, we do a lot of like the basis of our programming in terms of philanthropy really comes down to conservation. So we've got a few different organizations that are we believe to be industry leading as far as like not only their advocacy for wild places and public lands and opportunities for hunters, but really they care about the mission of keeping places in the hands of hunters and fishermen. And that to me is like one of the reasons I joined the company, right, is this commitment that we have a platform in which to hopefully get people to understand that we're really lucky to be able to do what we do, and the places that we're afforded to hunt. We just have a really good commitment to that conservation and have empowered organizations through our ability to send them dollars, to go to work on some really impactful projects. Yeah. And that comes, down to working with Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation or BHA or, any other organization that's doing good work for all habitat, right? We're not just talking specifically for elk, but like Rocky Mountain does a lot of stuff for prairie chickens that people don't know, or, marshland stuff in the North Dakota region, the Dakotas region. And I think that's what we're after, right? Is the organizations that really fight the good fight. And we want to make sure that that's a core, moving forward, that's a core element of who we are. It's in our DNA.
And every time that someone makes a purchase, they can do the roundup for conservation stuff. And like, it might be 52 cents this time, it might be 10 cents the next time, but it all adds up and you guys put all that right back into conservation. And it's good to see that coming out of you guys.
Yeah, it's something that we've been industry leading on for a long time, and we just make it a point that that's important to us. I think obviously as a for-profit business, we're afforded the opportunity because we've been successful to help those folks, but that's just the right thing to do, and that's sort of who we are as a company.
Yeah. Sorry, Damon, you're gonna.
Yeah, no, I want to. So, we ladies and gentlemen, we've tried. We've picked away at him. We have tried to get him to drop some nuggets, and he's not biting. Like he's really not. Yeah, he's holding out. So I think
I don't think
ship,
Kevin wants to get fired.
Yeah.
No, I gotta pay the bill so I can buy more elk tags and go come up and hunt Canada with you boys.
Yeah, buddy. Oh, dude, it would mean the world to us to have you come up and have a short and have one of those blind breakfasts that Philly talks about all the time. And oh yeah, listen.
Hey, what are you doing March 30th?
Nothing.
I know there's a snow goose hunt happening.
You want to come shoot some white?
You want to come shoot some snow geese?
Yeah. Do you get to extend your magazines and throw all kinds of steel, or what's the
deal? No. We're in Canada. There's no fun allowed.
This is Canada.
Pump your brakes.
The most fun we have up here is 28 gauges
with the pants on.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, but invites there for you. 30th of March.
I love it.
We're smacking some Canadas with St. Lawrence Outfitters, which is probably the best outfitting racket in Ontario. So
I love it.
I wanted to talk to you, Kevin, I wanted you to talk to us and tell us about that first greenhead that you ever shot.
Sure.
And tell us about it, because this is always something that we love to hear.
Yeah, I think I lied to you. I think the first bird I ever shot was probably a Canada, honestly. And then I got hooked on the greenheads. But I was always really enamored by vocalizations of animals. You know, like I love being able to figure out how to manipulate a flight, you know, to come. As a young kid, we had this place in St. Paul called Joe's Sporting Goods. And I'd go there and test out goose calls. And I remember when I first broke over that first goose call, and it was like a really shitty goose call. Like, I don't think I could blow it today. But anyway, my dad was like, well, I got a buddy with some ground and he's got geese, so let's go shoot him. And I don't even know if I shot the bird. I mean, it was my bird, right?
Yeah.
But that joy, man, of watching a Canada come in with his feet down, just mouth open, coming in, and he's going to take that food away. I was like, oh man, I'm hooked. And then from there, it turned into this sort of like this obsession of like, we worked our butts off as high school kids on public water, you know, like all you needed was your dad's truck, a bag of decoys, and a shotgun, and you were in it.
Yep.
You know, we didn't even have waders. We just had like hip boots and canoes. It got squirrely a lot, but man, that first instance of waterfowl hunting, man, I just appreciated the work of it. And I think that's I've always been a pretty hard worker. And I like that it's a fruitful endeavor most days if you put the work in. But there's a lot of days where you put in the work and you come up shooting coots or something, but that's just the way it goes. You know?
Whoa.
I like that.
Oh, easy.
Like
Coot commander.
Coot commander. Yeah. There's no coot shooting going on around here.
Those poor things just swim into the decoys looking for.
You know what? The things creep me out. Their feet creep me out.
Yeah, they're
big old water chickens.
Yeah, they
another subject that the boys love talking about is dog training.
Oh yeah.
And I noticed that you're doing pretty good with that. You want to tell the boys what you got for a puppy and you're training there?
Yeah, for sure. I did not get a waterfowling dog just because I needed something that was going to extend my season even further, of course. So we got a Llewellyn setter. She's an English setter. She's about, I think she's just over November, so just over a year and a little bit, and she's been phenomenal, man. We've hunted 5 different species of upland birds. Actually had her in the duck blind the other day, and I think she'll probably do it. She's just a little thin coated, but she's a natural retriever and really obedient dog and just a good buddy. You know, we've been really lucky to have her. She's a good dog. So,
that is a beautiful dog.
She's a good looking dog, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I tell you, and I don't know if you've looked into it, Kevin, but I'm going to be purchasing one for my dog for next year for late season, and it's called a sugar coat. And it's like it's like a blanket, but it's all magnetic down the opening. And when your dog comes back from a retrieve in that icy cold water, she comes back, you just drape that over her, and it's all magnetic closures, right? So when she's ready to go, you just hold on to the coat and she can just bust out of it and go on and pick up. So I'll be purchasing one of those next year for my girl, because same thing, right? Like there's a certain point, I love my dog and she would go and go and go and go, but there's a certain point where you got to start looking after them and saying, I think this might be a little bit too cold for you. So I think you should stay home. But
we hunted over some phenomenal goose dogs out of the field the last few days. Just big labs, like 85 plus pound labs that make a 12-pound goose just like look like a duck. It was incredible, man. There's a woman over in Eastern Oregon named Laura, and she is an outstanding trainer. And watching her dogs work, man, that was like 70% of the fun for me.
Oh yeah, big time.
Great. They work quick though. It was awesome. So yeah, nothing better than a good dog. It's just the best, man. We don't deserve them.
There's a little picture there for you, boys.
That's I love those liver spots. That's a good looking dog.
She was proud that day. We did good. We were in South Dakota hunting roosters, and she did great. It was tough hunting, but she did good.
Yeah.
Awesome. Boys, anybody else got any questions?
No, the guy's a stone.
Yeah, that's right. Can't break me.
Any
I know.
Of an upland line.
Upland. Well, that's your.
I know it's not really
stuff.
I know it's not really waterfowl related, but that new tree saddle that they showed at the whatever that last expo was, are you guys going to be selling that through First Lite, or is that only through Tethered?
I don't know yet. I imagine they'll probably be on our site. It might just be a collaboration. Shit, boys, I've been gone so much, I don't even know what's going on around the office. It's kind of a good place to be in, but I did see it come out. We've been working on that a while. Yeah, it's have you guys hunted out tree saddles at all? It's the best, man.
It's kind of just starting up here. Like I
have no idea what it is.
So it's basically like a big diaper that you climb up a tree like a lineman working on telephone poles.
Really?
And,
and then you kind of sit on the tree, like you sit on this saddle that's attached to the tree, and it's a little bit more comfortable, but you can, instead of sitting in a seat that you're like facing towards where the deer are coming, you can actually sit kind of behind the tree. And then when the deer come in from the way, you can actually like kind of peek around the tree to take your shot.
I use them out hunting and all kinds. They're just so super fun, man. All the pros can get up trees with like 2 sticks. It's incredible.
I actually got hooked on it because of the First Lite, that video where the guy goes into like the backyard and he sees deer back there, and I forget what the name of that video series was. The First Lite did.
Chamberlain from it's called In City Limits. That's a good one.
In City Limits, that's a good one. Yeah, if you watch that In City Limits, he just like he got some climbing sticks and his tree saddle, and he's just walking in like, hey, can I hunt your backyard? And he's climbing their trees in their backyards and hunting.
I love it. Man. Yeah, it's good. It's a good way to hunt for sure. But yeah, that's coming out soon. I don't know if it's dropped yet. They just released it at the ATA show, and it's a good way to hunt deer, man. It's effective and sneaky, so we like that.
Yeah. Well, I'm not much of a deer hunter. I grew up hunting moose in Newfoundland, but I tell you what, a bucket list, and someday I'll do it when I get rich, is to hunt elk. And actually I really could care less if I actually shoot an elk. I would like to be out on that frosty morning and hear it bugle. I think that would be enough for me.
They're like 2 hours from you.
Yeah, come up down, man.
I'm gonna say, in fairness, Damien, there's an elk farm 5 minutes down the road from my house. You can come stand on the side of the road in the winter.
I'd like for it to be a little bit more of a challenge than that.
There is a bull there.
That would be it. That would be. I don't get excited about big game like moose back home. It fills your freezer, and that's what it's meant for. It nothing other than that. There's no sport to it. It's
survival.
It's a necessity, for lack of a better term, I guess. But to do an elk hunt, that would probably be as exciting as anything for me. I just like to be.
You'll never feel the same way again after you hear a bull bugle at you from 30 yards. It is like life shattering.
30 yards.
That's honestly one of my, like, if I were to win the lottery, it would be an elk hunt.
Yeah, me too. If I won the lottery, it'd be me and my dad. I would take me and Dad, and we would go do it. Oh yeah, big time.
My dad wants to go shoot caribou. That's his like thing. Like if I
got a migration that runs through my hometown. There's like 600-700 that runs through my hometown every year.
Yeah, you just stand on the sidewalk and poke it with a sharp stick.
When we were teenagers, we used to go on so like everybody had snowmobiles, so that's all we did was drive around on snowmobiles. And we used to be able to drive out on this marsh where the migration would come through, and you could sit on the snowmobile and put your hands out like this and just rub their backs. They would just part like the Red Sea. Yeah, they like, because I live in a national park, right? My hometown's in a national park, so there's no hunting there. So they had no pressure, so they never worried about anything. And the odd poacher that was around, like it just didn't affect them, right? So like they didn't care. So you could ride it, you could ride your snowmobile. If you were the passenger on the snowmobile, just ride out, put your hands out, and you could rub their backs. Caribou.
That's incredible.
Yeah, it was wild.
The ones that aren't in the national parks aren't that hard to get either.
No,
that's what I hear. Yeah.
Not in Newfoundland, or not, because there's not a.
This is how you get them overlooked.
but it's in Newfoundland, right? So there's not a lot of the out of the province hunters that come to Newfoundland are all coming for that big bull moose, right?
Yeah.
So the big those caribou, but like you look in the Yukon and Alaska, like there's some trophy caribou. Like there's fellas that go up there just for caribou, and they don't care about. They just want to get that trophy caribou. So the caribou, which is one of the best tasting meat you'll ever have.
That's right.
I've
actually never eaten caribou. I got to get on.
It's really good if it's field dressed properly. It is really good, but you can really mess up a caribou if it's not dressed properly.
Oh, I bet.
So the hardest caribou tag to get for someone who's not from Newfoundland is the Newfoundland woodland caribou.
Really?
Yeah, it's one of the most expensive too. You're talking $20,000 to hunt.
Holy cow.
Really?
Pardon?
Oh yeah. Yeah, the Newfoundland woodland caribou is one of the hardest tags for someone who's not from Newfoundland to get.
Oh, I didn't know that.
It's a prize because people want to get the 5 species of caribou.
Yeah.
Right.
You got to get the Newfoundland one. That's one of them.
Yeah, because Newfoundland's caribou is its own subspecies, right?
Right. They're beautiful critters, man.
Oh, they are. 100%. And like I said, they are really good eating. If you dress them the right way, they're amazing. If you dress them the wrong way, just burn your meat because.
That's like most things, though. I don't know. You can, excuse me, you can screw up an elk pretty bad and it tastes delicious. Have you guys ever eaten elk, like from the wild?
No.
Not from the wild. I've just farmed elk is all I've ever eaten.
Oh, I'll try to send you guys some. We got that's kind of that's our freezer filler. I'll try to get you a frozen box.
Really?
It's so good, man.
I'm sending you my address right now.
I just added Kevin to Instagram. I'll be shooting him my.
I tell you what, Mark, send them some of that breakfast sausage that you made, because, buddy, I'm telling you, that's the best sausage I've ever had, hands down.
If I could make it to Ontario, will they let me come across the border with meat or no?
Yeah.
100%. Just don't tell them.
Yeah, it's Canada, Kevin. They don't care about meat coming across as long as you don't bring guns.
Yeah,
and
you bring wild game all day long.
Yeah.
So you can't cross the border with a firearm?
Well, you can. You
Actually,
just gotta.
In fairness,
you gotta put the paperwork.
It's a hell of a lot easier for an American to come over with a gun than it is a Canadian to go back.
Is that right?
Yeah.
I've never had a problem.
I've had a number of buddies come up here from the States to hunt with me, and it was a joke.
Look at Jordan LeMay. Like when we have those, we do a waterfowl weekend every year there, Kevin. Yeah. And there's a guy from the States, and he just came over for like a visit, and then he's just like, "Oh, I'll just go get my stuff and I'll come over." And it's like he fills out paperwork for 5 minutes, brings his gun across, and he's hunting with us. It's like,
it's a joke for him. But for us to go down, you got to go through like the ATF, and there's an application process. It's a freaking rigmarole.
It's not hard though. I've done it.
So what are you shooting when you do waterfowl hunting?
Yeah, I'm shooting a Weatherby 12 gauge. Okay. So they make an 18i that I really like. Their element's really good. When I'm upland hunting, I'm shooting a Beretta little 20 gauge. I like those Weatherbys, man, because you can beat the piss out of them, and it's like a once a year clean job, and then you're fine.
And now you're talking my language. Clean up once a year. Up once a year, man. That's it. These guns that take all of this extra care and I
like the synthetic ones too, because you can basically dump them in a pond and they'll be okay. And I like that SX3 from Winchester. That was a fine shooting gun.
Yeah.
I've shot a lot of different shotguns.
I shot that SX3 in Saskatchewan. I brought a Benelli out to Saskatchewan with me. And it just I honest to God could not hit a goddamn thing with that gun. And was it
the Two Black Eagle 3?
No, it was the Supernova. It was a
Oh yeah.
And the guide we were with, he was like, I've got an SX3 here, try this. And buddy, I was tripling on birds with that gun. It was amazing. That's amazing. I love that gun. But I shoot a Beretta.
You shot any of that Federal bismuth before?
No, I haven't. Philly might have.
Federal bismuth.
Dude, it's like $70 a box or whatever. It's outrageous. I got to shoot some, and I no joke was killing geese at like 50 yards. I'm not bullshitting you. 50 yards, dead, like dead. And you're only shooting 4-shot too, and it's just like lethal.
You know what?
That's $70 a bird for me.
Yeah.
You know what I like so much about that comment was that he said, I'm shooting birds dead at 50 yards.
Yeah, I mean dead.
And that's crazy, right? Like we could say amongst the 5 of us that a 50-yard shot is a crazy shot where you're killing a bird dead.
Especially on geese too.
Yeah. Know? So Kevin, the problem we have up here in Canada, up here in Ontario, is we've got 3 or 4 dudes that are I don't know if they're staffers or what with these ammo companies, but they brag about just destroying birds at 90 yards. And I'm like, how are you shooting birds at 90 yards? And you're saying 50 yards and I'm killing it, which is, impressive. 50 yards is impressive to knock a bird down dead.
I don't usually shoot them that far because I like them when their feet are down and you can almost see the chin straps.
I love it.
But geez, man, I was shocked. They're like, yeah, go ahead and shoot that bird. I was like, I don't think I can, that's pretty far. And sure enough, led him about a foot and he was dead.
Really?
Oh yeah.
Well, Philly shoots bismuth, but he shoots Kent, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I run number 4 bismuths either through my M2 20 gauge or if the off chance I have some in the SB or Super Black Eagle 2.
Yeah.
And like I've had even with the 20 gauge, I've had no issues. 40 yards, like stone dead.
Yeah.
Not crippled, dead, and you gotta chase the bird around, whatever. Like no, dead. DED dead at 40 yards.
That's awesome.
You spend the time. You spend the time. You pattern your gun. Like I haven't even touched my 12 gauge this year.
Yeah.
And years ago, like when I was shooting a 12 gauge for turkey, I was shooting 3.5s for turkey, and I killed a bird at I think it was 52 or 53 yards.
Yeah.
And like that was a poke. Like I'm using turkey choke number 6s, so like again, like your pattern density is just ridiculous.
Yeah, it's like throwing a freaking wall of steel at them. It's just like you can't get out of there.
You spend the time, you properly pattern your gun, you work with your chokes, you work with your shot, and like you can make legit, absolute stone cold dead shots at 40 yards, no questions.
Yeah, that's incredible.
Just spend a couple hours doing a little bit of research. Sit at a table with a couple pieces of paper, and like the paper's not going to lie.
No,
you got something that's patterning tight, like so at say 30 yards, or if it's throwing it all wild and crazy, and go for that tighter pattern. Like again, density is what kills.
Oh yeah,
plain simple.
I was pretty impressed just by I spent some time shimming that gun I'm shooting now, and that was like. No wonder I've been missing birds my whole life. My cheek's halfway off the comb. It's just like, it's just like you got to practice quite a bit. And I tend to like practicing when I'm hunting. It's expensive. Shells ain't cheap these days.
I got into the world of the 28 gauges.
Oh yeah.
And started shooting a 28 gauge and shoot number 6 steel because that's what I could get. And I killed a goose with a 28 gauge using number 6 steel.
That's awesome.
That's
good.
Was dead before he hit the water.
There's a new 28 gauge out right now, isn't there? Or announced?
I believe, as per early, was it yesterday or today? I lose track.
Yesterday.
Yesterday. That Benelli Arms has released a Super Black Eagle 3 in a 28 gauge now. It's available in 4 guns, black and 3 camo patterns.
I'm super interested to see.
Barrel.
I'm super interested to see how it goes with, like, it's inertia driven on such a light load, you know? Like, but to me, the science behind it's like, wow.
I shoot the Ethos in a 28 gauge. It works just fine.
Yeah. I can't wait to get one.
That'll be cool. We got a lot of 28 gauge guys around here. They're getting fancier and fancier, man. I'm just like, give me if they made a 2 gauge, I'd be shooting that son of a gun.
Why do you shoot 3.5-inch shells? Because they don't make
4.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what? I've been thinking about it the last. I don't judge me when I say this, but if you watch TikTok, there's this guy that comes on and he does these skits. He's like, be a man. So the one the other day was skiing to an avalanche, be a man. And then all these guys start laughing and stuff like this. And I want to do one and go shoot 3.5-inch shells, be a man. And
it's not.
Goddamn Neanderthals.
Yeah, I know.
Well, I've been a long, like, see, you don't know me, Kevin, but like I've been a long proponent of shooting the 20 gauge, and I couldn't tell you the amount of people I've sold on shooting 20 gauges. Now they're like, yeah, I don't know why I didn't do this sooner.
Yeah.
And then this fall, I got into shooting an Ethos in 28 gauge. Dude, most fun you can have with pants on. Like,
oh yeah.
Sweet Jesus.
I bet it's fun. Well, you such a better shot when it's like shooting a 22 or a 300 Win Mag, you know? You can shoot that all day long, you know?
Like,
your follow-up shot makes so much fun.
Much fun. And the gun, the Ethos is either like 5.5 or 5.6 pounds. Like,
oh geez.
You might as well be shooting a single shot 20 gauge.
I know. That's crazy.
It weighs pennies, and it's so much fun to shoot.
I
and it's like 30, like you pattern the gun, and Tony Vandemore, like everyone knows who Tony is. He runs a 28 a lot. You can lace mallards out 30-35 yards.
That's incredible.
Pattern
I suppose we shoot for chuckers, you know, it's the same thing.
Yeah. Hey, if you want to try it, March 30th, just saying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Come on up, man. It is a bit of a.
We might have to talk offline about that, because that sounds pretty intriguing. I don't think I've ever killed a snow goose, to be honest with you.
Oh, buddy.
Probably put stacks down up there, huh?
Little white devils.
The white devils.
And if you're driving up here, Kevin, bring bird dog.
Yeah. We still haven't got this stuff in Canada yet, even though we are trying very hard to get it in Canada. But
Canada's a hard place to buy a drink of whiskey, huh? It's
expensive. Well, you can get. Well, yeah, it is expensive. But you know, I digress. Bird dog whiskey.
Well, look. In fairness, looking at the price of beer in Saskatchewan, because I'm going there this fall, and that's not too appetizing.
Yeah, Pilsner. You're in the land of Pilsner out there, buddy. Boys, anything else for Kevin? We're getting to that close to that hour mark.
Damien's getting twitchy.
I gotta say, I've been looking for a good waterproof gear setup since I got out of a different waterfowl gear brand there a few years ago, and I haven't really bid on anything. And I almost got into the Seek and stuff there last fall, and for some reason I held off, and then you guys came out with your announcement, and now I know why I held off.
There you go. Yeah,
buddy,
I'm the stuff coming for you.
I'm going to tell you that Seek line, the pants and the jacket, it is legit. Like, I really don't know how you. So I don't know what the new line is, and Kevin's really not giving us anything, but I don't know how you can improve upon that Seek lineup. I got it in Cypher, and it is, when it's layered, buddy, it is worth its weight in gold. There's no doubt about it. So
I agree with you, but all I'm going to tell you is just wait, buddy. Just wait.
Oh, there goes my bank account, Dave.
Yeah.
There goes the bank account. Okay, boys. Kevin, buddy, thank you so much for coming on. I know you're such a busy dude.
I appreciate it, guys. We'll have to do it again. It was fun. I like chatting with guys like you. It's easy.
Buddy, you come on anytime you want, and anytime you wanna like drop a like, hey, it's coming down first here. You let us know, and we'll
you bet we'll do that, man. That'd be great. Once the product stuff comes out, let's get on and we'll chat about it. I'll bring our waterfowl guy on too, and we can chat you through it.
Yeah, absolutely. We'd love that. We'd love to have that. And I'm looking forward to it. My bank account is not looking forward to it, but I am looking forward to it.
Oh, you can't take it with you, buddy.
Right? He who dies with the most toys wins.
That's right.
Boys, we'll do a quick round of table. We'll leave the last word for Kevin. Philly, to you, buddy.
Kevin, absolute pleasure to have you on here, sir. Looking forward to seeing, what's coming out and just, learning more about clothing industry and what's going to be out there to offer in the near future.
You bet.
Mark.
Good meeting you, Kevin. Gotta say, you gave us a ton of information without telling us anything. So you did well. You did really well.
That's a good way to put it.
I'm kind of glad and at the same time a little disappointed, but you know what?
I've been hearing that my whole life, my friend.
That's awesome. Dave.
Yeah, Kevin, thanks for coming on. Thanks for putting up with me bugging you all the time. And we'll talk more.
You bet.
Kevin, buddy, thank you so much for coming on and letting us have some fun. It was great to have you on. And I know, like I said, you're an extremely busy dude with a lot of responsibilities. So you have no idea how much we appreciate you taking an hour out of your day to come and hang out with us schmucks. So yeah, man, thanks so much. And we really do want to have you back on and chat more about this.
Absolutely, guys. If anybody wants more information too, they can check out firstlite.com. We treat our Canadian friends pretty good. So if you have any issues,
do you ever?
Yeah.
Actually, I got to jump in on that, Kev, and just say the beauty about First Lite, when you order your duties, there's no surprises. Everything comes straight up on the when you check out. So unlike other things when you order south of the border, when the UPS, FedEx, or Perlator guy shows up and he hands you that extra money, that extra bill, there's no surprises with First Lite. It's all calculated right there at the checkout. So thanks for bringing that up, Kev, because that's one thing that I really love about First Lite.
And it's super affordable too. And the only surprise you're going to find is like, you'll order something and then 2 days later it's on your porch and you're going, this came. Yeah. Meanwhile, I order something from my next door neighbor and it's like 3 months in the mail. Like, what the fuck is going on? So.
That's right. Well, you boys shoot straight the rest of the go, and hopefully we'll see you in March. I'd love to do it. We'll see if we
buddy. Dave, let's make this happen. Let's get them up.
We'll do it
for March 30th. Okay,
I guess that means I have to confirm.
Yeah, you do. Okay, boys. Right. Kevin, thanks so much. Ladies and gentlemen, this was episode 79 of the Union 0430. As you can see, just like we say at the end of every show, we are as advertised, just a bunch of dudes that love one another's company, love talking about bird hunting, and we get to bring on some pretty amazing guests. This was episode 79, like I said, of the Union 0430. Stay with us next week. More and more to come. Kevin from First Lite and the entire crew from First Lite, we cannot wait to see this come the summer. Stay tuned because we'll keep dropping whatever we can on this announcement whenever we can. Big love. Until next time.